Hello, I'm Mimi Lichtenstein, and welcome back to Adventures in Luxury Travel. Today, I am very excited to have on Tomas Cochran. We are going to talk about the Maldives from top to bottom, all the beautiful islands and resorts. And Tomas, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mimi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking a little bit before we came on about how your job appears from the outside to be everybody's dream job. You get to go to the Maldives for work and check out a bunch of amazing, gorgeous hotels. So lucky you. We get the benefit of all of your knowledge. So I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Do you want to maybe start by telling us a little bit about, how you got into this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. I would highly recommend everyone should quit their jobs and work in the Indian Ocean. It's a very good life decision, I think. But yeah, I got into it through family. Really, it was a family company, Hummingbird. We set up in the early 2000s as a DMC business. Hummingbird was originally a helicopter company flying to the first tourist guests into the Maldives in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was a very different destination in those days. It was much more budget, much more for sort of hardcore snorkelers and divers, mostly from France and Germany. And it wasn't actually till later it became sort of a luxury destination. I think Suniva Fushi was the first luxury resort to open in 96, and then one and only came 10 years later. So, when we started, it was a bit more budget and a bit more sort of basic. And then in the 2000s, we set up this DMC business, which was to work with tour operators and travel agents, and started out working in the back garden of my brother-in-law's flat in London. And we kind of built up as the years went on, and the Maldives became more and more popular. So it's been quite a meteoric rise to what it is now. And now it's like seen as the number one luxury destination in the world, which is quite amazing what a difference has happened in the last sort of 15 years, which is about as long as I've been working at Hummingbird.
And so fun. What a great destination. I mean, if you have your choices of places, I think a lot of people would put this one at the top of their list. I was just showing that picture of the turtle swimming around because it's so beautiful. And that's one of the amazing things you get to do when you're in the Maldives. But let's start with the map so that we all can have a little bit better visual of what's where. So you give us maybe an overview. I know there are 1,100 plus islands and atolls, some of them uninhabited, some of them with a resort, some of them really populated.
Yes.
You want to give us an overview of all these beautiful atolls?
Yeah, if you just stop there, because that's roughly in the middle of the Maldives. So yes, you're right. It's 1,190 coral islands, one of the world's most disparate countries, spread over 960 square kilometers, and from north to south is about just over 900 kilometers as well. So actually, although the islands are small, it's a big country with lots of small islands. And what you can see now is a map of the Maldives, and roughly in the middle of the Maldives, and where your cursor is hovering over the North Mali and the South Mali Atoll. And that's where guests arrive into. That's where Mali International Airport is. And then from there, you take your transfers. And if it's in the Mali Atoll, it's a speedboat transfer because the resorts are relatively close to the airport. And if it's one of the further afield atolls, like to the south, you've got the South Ari Atoll, and to the north, you've got the Bar Atoll. Then you take a seaplane or a domestic flight to get there. So it's a bit further from the international airport. But I would say, you could almost treat every atoll like a state or a county or a state. They all have their own personalities. Some of them have their own regional dialects. For example, down in the far south is an area called Garn and Adu. And they actually almost became independent from the rest of the Maldives in the 1970s, partially because it used to be a British naval base there. And so they kind of developed separately from the rest of the Maldives. And then when the Maldives was no longer a British protectorate and gained independence, the Maldivians in the south wanted to secede from the rest of the Maldives and set up their own government. It didn't happen in the end, but there still is quite a strong independence in the south and a differentiation from the rest of the Maldives. And they actually have their own dialect, their own culture and customs. So yeah, different atolls have their own flavor, and there are benefits to going to different parts.
Okay. Well, I do know one of the challenges is when you have 160 different resorts, on all these beautiful islands, if someone wants to go to the Maldives, they're like, great, I want to go to the Maldives, but where do I go? There is a lot to choose from. And so, some of the factors include where are they located and the type of atoll it's on, and is it a private secluded island, or are there other things around? Do you want to give us, what are some of the, I guess, different toggles you can pull to decide what's for you? For example, if you're going with your family versus on your honeymoon, you might want a totally different type of place. What are the other things that people should think about?
Yeah, so I think that a good thing to do when you're looking at going to the Maldives is to really decide what you want to do. I mean, do you want to go snorkeling with a good house reef that has lots of coral and marine life? And ideally, then you want a reef that is accessible from the beach, from your island. And about 50% of the islands have a reef that's accessible from the beach. So that automatically narrows down your search quite quickly. You might also want to consider, what size of island you have, because some of the islands are really small. You can walk around them in about 5 minutes. And then some other islands are really big and you actually get bicycles and you cycle around them. So usually the smaller islands are better suited for honeymooners. They're quieter, they're a bit more exclusive. Whereas the bigger islands are maybe better for families. They have more facilities, they have kids clubs, and there's a bit more to do, especially for children. They might get bored on a really small island. Mm-hmm. Some resorts offer surfing, loads of water sports, and some resorts don't have the surfing facilities, so the waves just aren't there. So yeah, it's really important to kind of work out what you want to do on the island and also whereabouts you want to go. So do you just want to take a speedboat and get to the island quickly after a long flight? So if that's the case, you want to be staying in the Mali Atoll because that, again, is accessible by speedboat. Some people, as fantastic as a seaplane is and as an amazing experience as is, some people just don't want to get on the seaplane. They just want to get to the resort and take a speedboat, and that's absolutely fine. And there's quite a lot of really quality properties in the Mali Atoll. But if you want to get further away from Mali, and Mali is a busy atoll, there's more flights, there's more boats nearby, there's more resorts nearby. You'll see things on the horizon. If you want to get to the really secluded part of the Maldives, you do really have to get on a seaplane or a domestic flight to get really out into the middle of nowhere. And just be completely secluded. And then there are areas in the Maldives like atolls where are really good for whale sharks, particularly the South Ari Atoll, which is a seaplane transfer, is the best place to see whale sharks year round in the Maldives. So if you really want to go snorkeling with whale sharks, you probably want to go to a resort that's in the South Ari Atoll.
Well, I will say, sorry, go ahead.
Or if you want to see mantas, the Bar Atoll is probably the best place in the Maldives.
Okay, good to know. Well, I took my kids swimming with whale sharks in Baja California a couple of years ago, and it was an absolute highlight of the trip. So highly recommend that for anybody. They're so big. They go fairly slow, but actually you have to swim pretty fast to keep up with them, which was a surprise for us. Another thing I think to think about, and this isn't just in the Maldives, but wherever you go, if you're a sunrise person or a sunset person and you want to be able to see that from your accommodations, figure out, where you are on the island and where your individual accommodation is so that you can enjoy that if there's one over the other. Some people sleep in through sunrise every day, so it wouldn't matter. I'm a sunrise person, so I would favor that side. But a lot of different things to think about when you're choosing which resort. Let's talk a little bit about all of the cool, fun stuff that you get to do, including this awesome jet surfing guy who is at Vela, which I know is one of your favorites. I'm just going to flip through some of these, and if you want to, share any details about them, let me know. My kids last month in Alaska learned how to e-foil on a lake wearing a wetsuit in Alaska. They absolutely loved it. So for teenagers, doing something like this would surely be a highlight. Have you tried these jet surfers?
I haven't tried a jet surfer. I've done a sea bob, and that was a lot of fun. I don't have the best balance, to be honest, so I probably fall off pretty quickly. But I've done that. That was awesome. But Vela is the island. It's probably the most luxurious island in the Maldives. Also the most expensive. But
they usually go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But it's if you really want the best of the best, and we have a category, categorize the different levels of resorts, and that would be a resort we would say is a 6-star plus, uber luxury, time to call mummy and daddy.
Yeah, I love your category when I first read that. So normal people think that 5-star property is the best that there is, but we've gone above it. I think that this picture is so beautiful. It's just looks like I guess a romantic dinner, but for a group of friends or colleagues on the beach, dug into the sand at the sunset. Looks absolutely stunning. I can imagine just sitting out there at the end of the day one day and being in that beautiful view. And then I'll flip through some of the pictures and maybe you just touch on them.
Yeah, I mean, just on the subject of sunsets, there is something really magical about a sunset or a sunrise in the Maldives, because it's obviously a very low-lying nation. There is very little to get in the way of you've got unspoiled views of the sunset, and there's something about the way the light hits the water. Because it's turquoise blue waters, you have like pinks, purples, blues, and it's very like ethereal light that you get in the mornings and in the evenings in the Maldives, and you get it pretty much every day. It's very rarely sort of cloudy or overcast, so you get those amazing sunsets and sunrises. So at dinner it's just amazing, and no artificial light at night, so stars are also incredible. Really, really nice. But yeah, you got kayaks, yachts, speedboats, jet skis, windsurfing, surfing from May to October is particularly good as well. Loads of experiences. It's a very active destination, and here you've got the at the Ozen Bolafushi, you've got the synthetic ice rink, which is a really unique experience.
I had to include that. Well, I have an ice hockey player, and we usually have a backyard rink in the wintertime. But the fact that there's a resort in the Maldives that has artificial ice so you can go ice skating was new to me, and I love it for those people who also have hockey players or skaters. And this is beautiful. So there's glass blowing experience at Saniva Fushi, which I know is one of your favorite places. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, are these just resident glass blowers, and are they doing it for things that people take home with them and the glassware around the resort? How does that work?
Yeah, everything, to be honest. So they will get some celebrity, like super, like professional glass blowers in, and they'll leave some exhibits which are quite pricey, but then they also have some more affordable ones, because I actually bought for my mum, it was her birthday, I bought her some candle like really nice vases and candle holders and things from Saniva Fushi, and it was went down very well. But you can also get involved yourself as a guest, learn how to do some glass blowing. They have the factory on resort. But so there's a shop there. You can buy some like really high end professional made stuff, and you can also make your own stuff as well.
So fun. And I love this picture. So you were talking about the stars. Some of the islands and resorts have huge centers, not huge, but fairly big centers, so that you can go out there and look through the high-powered telescopes at the gorgeous constellations. And then you also have this example at Saniva Fushi, where there's just a big, movie set up outside, and everybody goes out there under their blankets on their lounge chairs, enjoying an evening out in the beautiful.
Yeah, and they serve popcorn, and they bring you a gin and tonic or whatever it is that you're drinking. I saw Roman Holiday in Sneevy. They usually show like old classics, which is kind of fitting, I think, for an open air cinema in the Maldives. Really nice.
Absolutely. And then here's a good picture of a tiger shark, which I think it has a fish or some remnants of a fish hanging out of its mouth. And this one, you had introduced me to Daniel Brinkman. So he does these tiger shark and other photography underwater tours. And this one, I guess, is called Big Mama, because I think she was pregnant at the time.
Yes.
I can't tell from this picture, although I actually have another one where there's a person nearby, so you can see how big it is. Just out of curiosity, have you ever done this?
I haven't had the pleasure of diving with tiger sharks. I probably would be a bit scared, but apparently it's perfectly safe. There's never been a reported shark attack in the Maldives ever. And the best place for this is down in the south in Formula, which is a very beautiful locals island, and it's the place to go diving with tigers.
Well, some people will look at that picture and say, I want to do that. Other people will just run away screaming. So it really depends on the person. And then at the complete opposite end of the spectrum is sort of just lounging on the beach, right, with a cocktail in your hand, reading a book. It seems like it's a destination where you can be as active as you want on land at some places, on the water, under the water, but then also have times for places like this where you're just chilling, hanging off of a palm tree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a destination known for relaxation, quiet, peace, and especially for people that really don't want to be disturbed and want to get away from if they have a busy, hard job and they just want to cut off from the world. The Maldives is about the best destination you can go to and just completely relax. And sometimes people will just not leave their villa for the entire duration of their stay, and you might pop out for dinner once in a while, but they're just relaxed and completely disconnected.
Well, I think the running away to paradise is certainly a fantasy many of us have. And we touched on it earlier, but some of the resorts only have non-motorized water sports and other ones have motorized water sports. So that's also something you want to consider. Stand-up paddling obviously falls into the non-motorized one, and being active and getting some exercise. And you could tell from this picture that she's actually paddleboarding over a reef with lots of beautiful, I'm sure colors and fish underneath it. So this looks like one. Oh, this is Vela that has a house reef.
Yes. Yeah. And that's also, something to consider is the smaller islands tend to usually have the non-motorized or a focus on non-motorized, because if you have lots of people whizzing around on jet skis, it kind of disturbs the peace and quiet of the resort. So the bigger resorts have more scope for motorized water sports because there's a bigger island and you're not going to be disturbing guests who just want to chill out and don't want to hear like jet skis going past their water village all the time.
Yes, that is definitely, you want to make sure you get to the right resort for exactly that purpose. Last thing you want to do is go halfway around the world, want peace and quiet, and end up being surrounded by teenage jet skiers. And here's one of the examples of the beautiful sunsets in the Maldives. This one is at, I think, the Waldorf.
Yeah.
But I imagine the scene is replicated really anywhere that you stay.
Yes, yeah, it's in the Wall of Astoria is another one of my favorite properties, especially for the choice of dining options that they have. And this is actually one of their sort of more laid back restaurants where you would probably go for a sunset cocktail. It's kind of known as their sunset cocktail lounge area. But they have an amazing choice of different restaurants, and each restaurant feels like a real event going to and has a sort of particular setting, whether or not it's they have like a bamboo restaurant set high up in these like bamboo pods overlooking the resort, which is really cool. They have a Chinese restaurant, which is like in a manor house, a Chinese manor house. They have a sort of Arabian village style restaurant serving like Turkish barbecue. So yeah, each one is very, very special. But yeah, this is really nice.
Really nice, because if you are staying somewhere for quite a while, the last thing you want to do is eat the same food, right, every single night. So
yeah, and more so people want that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this was also a revelation for me. I didn't know that there were any atolls or islands in the Maldives that actually had a golf course.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about. So Vela is obviously on a bigger island, right?
Vela is a bigger island, and they have a golf academy. So it's a small course. It's a 9-hole, and it's bigger than a pin park, but it's obviously not massive. But they have here professional golf instructors, so you can work on your swing, work on your game if you're into golf, or if you've never played golf before. Why not start in Vela? It's very much a resort that's known for having lots of toys to play with.
And actually, I have a picture of their little hut with some of their toys here, right? So we might have lost Tomas for a moment. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. But, water skiing, wakeboarding, tubing, jet skiing. It is one of those bigger islands with more stuff going on. If you're looking for peace and quiet, probably best to go to a different one. And then, Tomas, what about this? I'd never seen this before. This is also at Vela. This is called a jetivator.
Yes, quite tricky to do. This lady here has got someone to help her. But yeah, some of the guys, if you can get good on it, it's absolutely awesome. It's like being Iron Man. You got like a jets coming out of your feet, jets of water coming out of feet, and you know I've seen people do loads of tricks, and you can dive down under the water and pop back out again and fly up into the air. It's absolutely incredible, but definitely takes a bit of practice.
And it's one of those things like kite surfing. My family's tried kite surfing. You have to dedicate many, many hours of your life to becoming a good kite surfer, but it's actually super fun to watch kite surfers. Obviously,
Very
this
cool.
probably has some noise associated with it, whereas kite surfing is just more quiet pursuit, but it's so beautiful to see really good kite surfers out there doing their thing.
I always get quite jealous of when I was watching kite surfers, particularly in the Maldives. I was like, man, that looks like so much fun.
So much fun. I know. You just have to, you've got to, my thought is you have to go away for like a solid week and your whole focus is to get to be a novice kite surfer. All right, let's transition to all of the fabulous, not all of them, but a few of the fabulous dining options. We're starting with one of the best. This is one of the underwater restaurants. You want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, this is Anontara Key Harbour, which is a very nice 5-star restaurant, and it's one of the best restaurants in the Maldives. And what makes it quite unique, of course, is that it's actually underwater. So you go out on an overwater jetty, and they've actually got another very nice restaurant bar area called Sky, which I think we'll talk about later, which has, you can do look at the stars, and it has a high-powered telescope. But beyond that, it's got this you go down a spiral staircase, and you come out into this luxury fine dining restaurant, which is underwater, and it's actually kind of built into the side of the house reef, the coral reef. So it's got loads of marine life there, beautiful coral, and you will see lots of beautiful tropical fish, turtles, rays going past your window as you maybe have a 5-course lobster champagne fine dining meal. So I've had the pleasure of visiting this particular restaurant, and it is absolutely incredible. And that photo is not being touched up. It genuinely looks exactly like that.
Right. I mean, it's just absolutely spectacular. I think I might have a video to share on it in a second, so we'll come back to it. And then here, I love this one because it's a good aerial picture. This is of the Fairmont. Not only is that pool absolutely beautiful, but this is their restaurant, right out in the sea.
Yeah, that's the longest infinity pool in the Maldives. Actually, it goes all the way across the island.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful, and so if someone's going out to this restaurant, how does that work? You take a little boat out, or you take a kayak?
So this down at the bottom of the picture, this is what's called the Corollarium. And it is, in fact, actually, it's the Maldives' only partially submerged art exhibition. So they actually have a very good marine biologist called Sam Dixon at the Fairmont, and I know Sam because we did a cultural and historical tour of the Maldives together, and he was one of our guests that featured on it. And he's actually from the UK's marine biologist, which I would say is probably the one job better than working for Hummingbird, because you get to live on the island the whole time and go snorkeling every day and diving. And his thesis, his dissertation was actually on whale sharks. But the Corollarium is really interesting. So it's basically this metal cage which they partially submerged, and they are growing coral, planting coral on the cage. And it's a really interesting. You get a snorkeling trip there or a diving trip there, and you can go around. You see the underwater art and see the different coral and the marine life. And it's year on year it gets better and better.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so I thought it was a restaurant, but it's not. It's a coral.
It does look like one, yeah.
Okay, well, again, another stunningly beautiful thing to do while you're down there. And actually, we'll touch on it at the end about sustainability, not just to highlight it, because as we both know, the Maldives are super focused on sustainability, not only just because they believe in it, but because it really matters for their islands. I love this one because this one's super casual. This is the Crab Shack, right?
Yes, one of our
tell us about this one.
Yeah, we did a special webinar looking at our favorite restaurants in the Maldives, and you've picked out most of the ones that we selected as well. And the Crab Shack definitely it's at an island called Finolu or Finolu, and it's a 5-star all-inclusive property with a kilometre-long sandbank. And at the end of this sandbank is this amazing restaurant. So it's quite a rewarding, very thin strip of sand with water either side. And you get to the end and it's got this amazing crab shack, which is offering baked crab and rosé, amongst other things, but that's kind of their signature dish. So you have baked crab, rosé. You're a kilometre away from the main island on this thin strip of sand, and it's a really spectacular place to just sand in your toes and great views either side.
Love it. Well, it's beautiful. And it is actually a good point. A lot of the Maldives is barefoot luxury. So you're having a very luxurious experience, but people aren't wearing suits and ties. They're going to places like this and they're having amazing wine and 9-course dinners, but not in a formal setting. This I thought was stunning. Again, another aerial view about the I can't pronounce this, so how do you pronounce this restaurant?
This is at the Malaiju Restaurant.
Yeah.
It's a Maldive island, and this the design is based on a traditional Maldivian dhoni, which is this sort of the traditional boats that they would do fishing with. So the Maldives economy before tourism arrived was all based around fishing because they're surrounded by water, and long line sustainable fishing in particular. So what's really nice about this restaurant is it's a fine dining restaurant over water, and you actually dining on these floating dhonies, which is a really nice idea.
Beautiful. And then this is one of the ones that's not underwater. This one is up in the trees. Niyama's The Nest. This looks equally beautiful and obviously super lush, but a completely different experience than being out on the water. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So treehouse dining. I love trees and tree houses, always been slightly obsessed with. Sorry, the sun is suddenly just coming through my window.
No worries. If you want.
Yeah. And yeah, the nest, so it's actually up in the trees, and there's lots of beautiful banyan trees at Niyama in particular. So it's a real sense of fun. You get amazing views, and there aren't many places in the Maldives where you get to be a little bit higher up. So the nest is quite unique in that department as well.
Yeah, the Maldives are not known for being, having altitude issues. And then here was another fun example. This is, I think the Maldives loves to push the boundaries of art and architecture and do cool contemporary things. This is at Vela. Tell us a little bit about this place.
So the Tabaru Tower is they have teppanyaki at the top of the tower. Great views, of course, and then teppanyaki served at the top. So it's a very quirky design, and actually they have a rule in the Maldives where you can't build anything higher than the highest palm tree on the island. So to circumnavigate this rule, because they had the idea on how high they wanted the tower to be, they actually brought a tree over that was just a tiny bit taller and planted it so they could have this tower.
Are you kidding me? Oh, that is
yeah.
I mean, I guess that was a creative solution.
Yes.
Not one I'm sure they were planning on when they came up with that rule. But hey, that happens. And this is the video I was talking about before. So I think this is of the Hura Valley underwater restaurant, right? So it gives you a really good visual of the fish and the reef around the restaurant, right? So beautiful.
Absolutely stunning. And there are, I think there's 5 or 6 underwater restaurants in the Maldives, and they're all pretty special, to be honest. But the nice thing about Hura Valley is it has this really good all-inclusive plan, and if you're staying on all-inclusive, you do get a dinner at the underwater restaurant included if you're staying for I think at least 5 nights.
Okay.
So it's a real once in a lifetime experience.
Absolutely. Well, it's beautiful. And we'll touch on that with the hotels, because I know they're part of the same ownership as Kududu, which is one of my favorites for active, adventurous, families and such. Let's transition to some of the hotels. So you could probably know what all these are by sight, but in case you don't, of course, I'm happy to remind you. But this is one of your favorite places, I think, right? Yes,
this is this the Wall of Astoria?
Yeah.
Great, phew. So yeah, the Wall of Astoria is it's a 5-star plus luxury resort, and it's accessible by a luxury yacht. So it's about half an hour from the airport, and it's quite a long, thin island with about 120 keys, and absolutely enormous villas, starting with beach villas, going to the grand beach villas, which have a large living room, and then these overwater villas that actually sit out, accessible on their own. So they're not connected by a walkway like most villas. So you have a little boat that takes you back and forth. So it's kind of like you're completely secluded out in the lagoon on your own.
Beautiful. I didn't actually realize that they didn't have the little walkway to get there. But yeah, that is unique because most of them do have walkways to get there.
Yes, usually the villas will go out on a walkway and be all connected. But there are a few resorts where you do have these water villas completely out on their own.
Okay. And this is another photo of the longest pool, infinity pool in the Maldives from the Fairmont, which looks very cool from above. And I love this next one because I have teenagers. So this is the Teenage Club at the Fairmont, which is made out of, I guess, the shipping containers like you would see passing through the Panama Canal, right? That looks really cool if you're a teenager.
Yeah, these were actually the shipping containers that they used to sort of when they were building the resort. So they've reused them, repurposed them for the club, and it's great. Also, sometimes in the Maldives, teenagers can get left out a little bit because they're in that awkward age where they're not quite old enough to be hanging out with the adults, or they don't want to hang out with the adults, but they're also too old to be doing the sort of really kiddie stuff. So not all the resorts cater that well for teenagers, but some of them do, and that can also be another thing you want to look at depending on how old the children are in the group that's traveling. So Fairmont's a really good one. They've got great facilities for the older children, more activities, treasure hunts, excursions, island hopping, water sports, and also cool areas for like older kids to hang out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a perfect example of, again, the focus on sustainability. When they bring things in, they either have to use them or repurpose them or ship them out. And so the fact that they decided to take all these containers and turn them into a cool place for the kids to hang out was a brilliant idea. I think all photos of resorts in the Maldives from above look amazing. This happens to be of Kudadu, which again, maybe give us a little bit of a background about Kudadu. I think it's a little bit unique in that it's a all-inclusive experiences, activities, and all of that. Tell us a little bit about this one.
It's very unique. It's one of the smaller properties in Maldives. It's only 15 villas all over water, and it's also the only completely solar-powered resort in the Maldives. So 100% of all its energy comes from the solar powers, and you can see those solar panels over the main restaurant right there. You can also see that it's got a really nice reef. It's sitting on basically the top of a coral hill. So you can see that there's coral going all the way around the island, and then there's that drop off where the water gets much darker and deeper. And that is an ideal place to get some snorkeling equipment, and you can just go around the island 360 degrees and snorkel and see loads of marine life and coral. So it's a real ideal location for that. But also with anything, anytime, anywhere, all-inclusive concept, you really can just relax and just do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about how much money you're spending. It's
right.
A luxury all-inclusive.
You bite the bullet up front, you know what the all-in cost is, and then you just go and enjoy, which I think a lot of people like. I happen to have had a call with them yesterday, or I'm in the Pure conference this week, so I got to dive deep into what it's like and the amount of experiences, spa treatments, trips on yachts, etc. Like it's all included. So if you like that kind of thing, I highly suggest it. And this is an example of one of their overwater bungalows with a pool, which is, again, stunningly beautiful. Here's another overwater bungalow. This one is the Six Senses Lamu, which I know that you like.
Yeah, the Six Senses. I mean, everyone has their own preferences and likes. And my personal style is I do like the sort of the barefoot, traditional barefoot luxury kind of feel. So I like a good thatched roof and natural woods used. And Six Senses Lamu, I think, is a really special property because it's based down in the south in the Lamu Atoll, and it's really the only property in the Lamu Atoll. So it feels extra special when you get there because it's quite remote, and you take a domestic flight and then a speedboat. And just getting to the resort is beautiful. You go to a very small little domestic island airport, and then you get a speedboat, and the journey over there is really fantastic. It happens to actually be near the place where they filmed one of the Star Wars movies called Rogue One. They filmed nearby, so if anyone's ever seen that movie, and there's a whole scene, big battle at the end, which is set in the Maldives. I mean, it's supposed to be another planet, but it's actually the Maldives. So they filmed it near there. But I love Lamu because it's got a great atmosphere. This picture here, you can see there's a large overwater area with on the left-hand side with lots of restaurants, bars. This is kind of your main sort of hub area of the resort. This is really buzzing, especially in the evenings when like dinner's served, and they have lots of street food. I was there on like Asian street food night, and they had different stands. Like you could have traditional Maldivian food, you could have Thai, Vietnamese, Korean. It was absolutely awesome, and people were just having the best time going to these different stands, sampling amazing food, and then taking their plate and like sitting on the jetty that's like under the stars over water. They have a chocolate room, they have an ice cream room that's open all day, so you can just go in and get yourself some homemade chocolate or ice cream whenever you feel like it. They have a massive marine biology department. They have an incredible surf school, and that's all just on the overwater. And then you've got this amazing lush green island with a great beach as well. That's relatively not too built up as well. So yeah, I think it's a great resort. It's very beautiful, and it's got a great atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And your marine biology comment made me think of, we were just in Alaska. I can't count the number of things we learned on this trip about all sorts of topics and people that we learned from. And if you're taking your kiddos or your teenagers somewhere like this who are interested in marine biology, obviously the amount of things that they can do and the things that they're going to learn, hands-on, experiential, is just, never ending. So it's a great destination that's not only beautiful, but educational as well. As soon as I saw these years ago from Suniva Fushi, the overwater bungalows with the slide going into the ocean, it was like, okay, that's where I want to go. Is Suniva Fushi the only one who has these slides going in the ocean, or do others have it too?
No, the first was Suniva Jenny. They were the first pioneer, and then Suniva Fushi added them, and now the Ozembola Fushi has also got slides. And on a more budget option, there is the Siam World, which is opening up in the end of October, which has affordable overwater villas with slides, but they are as much fun as they look. It's not just a gimmick. It's really cool. You can literally play on that slide all day and go shoot into the lagoon and swim back up to your villa, and it's just really, really good fun. A brilliant idea by Sonu, who's the owner of Suniva. He's the sort of mad scientist of the Maldives, and he comes up with these incredible ideas like slides. And also, actually, Suniva also has a retractable roof that you can press with a button. So when you're lying in bed, you press a button, the roof, you can see in that picture there is a retractable roof. The roof opens, and if you wanted to like gaze up at the stars at night, then you could.
Nice. No complaints. This is a little bit of an aerial view of Vela as well. And again, just stunning. Palm trees green, sand white, ocean blue, just absolutely spectacular. So I don't know that you can go wrong with anywhere in the Maldives, but certainly if you're going to spend the money and you're going to take the time to get there, because it does take a few minutes or whatever, a few hours, go to the right place. I think that's the key message, right? Make sure that you end up in a place that's going to be a good fit for you. I like to talk about over the top things. I do think that a trip to the Maldives for most people is over the top in and of itself, no matter where you end up. But what are some of your favorite over the top things in the Maldives? Let's assume we get there. One of them might be eating in the underwater restaurants. I know that's kind of a high ticket item. What are some of your other favorites?
Yeah, I think you can do really special like private experiences, like going to a sandbank and having a picnic. We got taken on one experience when we were staying at a very nice luxury property called Joali. We went for like a 3-day experience, and one of the days they have a deserted island near them, so it's not on the resort island, it's nearby, that they took us to, and they set up on this deserted island, which is like a strip of sand with a little bit of amazing beach and then just very thick jungle and vegetation. They set up like some umbrellas and some deck chairs and gave us a couple of sea bobs and jet skis. and a big sort of case of beer and some canapes, barbecue, and just kind of left us there and then said, well, we'll be back in 6 hours, have a good time. And so we just kind of spent the day there, and it was just about the best fun you can possibly have, just being on like this little island in the middle of nowhere with a little bit of music playing, and yeah, it was great. So I mean that was kind of a ridiculously fun experience.
Absolutely. And I think also some of these islands can be bought out for exclusive use. So certainly if there's a time in your life where you want to buy out an island in the Maldives, that would, I think, qualify as an over-the-top experience to bring all your favorite people, friends and family, or maybe your work colleagues, to celebrate a special occasion, a big birthday or something like that. And the ice rink, too, that we talked about earlier, I think of that as just being such a special, unique thing to be doing in the middle of the Maldives. So
yes,
I'm going to put that on the list, too. Regarding new hotels that are opening up, you guys have a lot of development going on. One of them I'm familiar with, which you touched on, Joali, which is a resort there, is actually building, soon to be opening, more of a spa wellness destination called Joali Being. And so this photo is a rendering because it's not done yet, but of course it looks beautiful. Their concept seems to be somewhat unique in the Maldives, being that it's going to be solely focused on wellness. And I think that you do certain programs that you sign up for before you get there. Are you familiar with what they're going to be doing here?
Yeah, a little bit. I know that they're going to be, it's going to be comprehensive and looking at what people will be eating and matching their diet up with their spa plan and their therapy treatments. So it would be a week's long complete detox. And I think that the thing about Joali is, all our clients are in agreement that in terms of the villas themselves and the design of the villas, especially the interiors, they're about the best you'll find in the Maldives, and very feminine in design as well, because quite a lot of the Maldives is quite sort of brash and minimalist, kind of a masculine style, but in Joali it's a female interior architect, and the colors used are more like copper, rose copper, and there's a motif, they use a lot of woods inside. There's a sort of ferns and cranes motif carved into all the woods, and the interior design is really, really beautiful, and that's also true for, I think, for the new Joali property. So it's going to be again, very, very high end, very luxurious, and probably one of the best resorts in the Maldives.
Well, I'm excited for it to open. And certainly if somebody's looking for that, I want to get away from it all and just focus on my health and relaxing, maybe after a huge year or a big event. It's definitely a good place to go do that. And then there are other hotels that are going to be opening up. The Ritz Carlton, I know, is one of them. You want to tell us about a couple other ones that are on your radar?
Yeah, so back in the Mali Atoll, there is the Ritz Carlton opening up, and this is quite an interesting product because it's part of the Fari Islands, which is going to be a chain of 3 hotels together. So you've got the Ritz Carlton, the Patina, and the Capella, and they're actually going to be able to access each other via a shuttle boat service that goes back and forth between all 3 properties. So that is going to give clients even greater choice. So if you were staying at the Ritz Carlton, but you fancied going over to the Patina that night for dinner, or to go shopping there, actually have some shops on the resort as well, then you could. The Ritz Carlton has 6 restaurants. The Patina will have 12. So having that kind of choice is something a little bit different in the Maldives, and the boat service is complimentary. It's very easy to get from one resort to the other. So that's quite an interesting proposition for the Maldives.
I think it's fun because with each new one that opens, they want to distinguish themselves somehow. So it's like, what's the unique thing about, this new place or that new place? Okay, great. And then what about Cora? I think you mentioned that to me when we were talking before. That one, which part of the Maldives is that one in?
Cora is in the Ra Atoll, which is in the north, and that is actually one of the deepest atolls in the Maldives, which makes it very good for diving. There's some amazing dive sites in the Ra Atoll. and it's probably the fastest developing atoll for new properties because it's relatively untouched. So there's a lot of deserted islands where hoteliers are looking at to build properties. And the Corollarium is going to be an affordable lead-in 5-star all-inclusive property. And we've already got a lot of demand for that. It's very popular in the UK market. It seems to be the sweet spot. Is that lead-in 5-star all-inclusive, which is sort of a combination of being like modern, luxurious, but also relatively affordable. So that seems to be where we get a lot of inquiries.
Okay, good to know. And then let's talk about some takeaway tips before we finish up. As far as seasonality goes, actually, before we do that, let's talk about sustainability really quickly. So the Maldives are, I think, maybe the highest point is like 6 feet above sea level, which everyone would understand that with rising sea levels, that could be a problem over many years. So they are, all of these places, very focused on recycling, solar power, making their own, electricity, making some of their own, glass blowing their own glasses and recycling, as well as, employing people who are from the local area. So would you say that that's been a shift, or has it really always been that way since the very beginning?
Well, in terms of employing people from the local area, that has always been the way, because that's written into Maldivian law. So every resort has to have a certain percentage of locals employed at the resort. So that they've always been very good on that. And in terms of keeping a low carbon footprint, again, I think the resorts, they've always had desalination plants. So they turn seawater into drinking water. So everything you drink on resort will have been desalinated, and that would have been done on the resort. So that's also quite sustainable. Solar powered is something that's changing, and more resorts are reverting to more solar power now. And you have examples like Godadu, which is now 100% solar powered. The Suniva resorts and Six Senses have always been very good when it comes to recycling, and they have a motto which is waste to wealth. So it's if you stay at Suniva or Six Senses, you'll see that the napkins, the tablecloths, they would have been made on the resort. The glasses that you're drinking at, they would have been blown on the resort as well. Even the vases, there's a Six Senses. There's these big vases that kind of line the jetties and some of the outside areas, and there are actually, in fact, old towels that have been dipped in concrete and to make these amazing shapes. So yeah, nothing really is wasted, and it's all recycled and reused. And Suniva Fushi is probably the best for recycling, because they actually have a plastic recycling plant. And now the resorts themselves are plastic free, but you do also have local islands, and sometimes plastic, or not even from the local islands, but from other parts of the world, plastic could wash up on the beach. So at Suniva Fushi, they collect the plastic in, and they convert that plastic into building bricks, which they use towards housing. So when it comes to keeping a low carbon footprint, I think Maldives is getting better and better, and it has always started from a position of a good position, but that will continue, and I'm sure we'll see more solar power coming in as well.
Yeah, and innovation. Okay, great. And so as far as seasonality, talk to me about best time. Is there a bad time to go to the Maldives? What's your thought?
So the traditional best time would be from December till the end of April. That's the high season. That's the least amount of rainfall. That's the most amount of sunshine. It's the hottest. That's when prices are also the highest. So we do encourage clients, say, well, Maldives is really a year-round destination. You don't have to travel in that really expensive season. So May to October is a viable option, and the advantages to traveling then as well is it's better. There's more plankton in the sea, so it's better for manta rays and whale sharks and marine life. You'll get an even better amount of mantas. And there's a particular area called the Hanafaru Bay and the Bar Atoll, which is a marine protected biosphere, the only one in the Maldives. And that is really good. May to October is the best time to visit. And sometimes you could be snorkeling with 30 to 40 mantas feeding frenzy on plankton. So yeah, it depends what you're looking for and what you're looking to do, really. If you want to go surfing as well, May to October is the best time to go surfing. So yes, during that season, you might get the odd shower, you might get the odd downpour. There is a higher chance of that, but it tends not to last too long. The only advice I would give to clients really is sometimes the end of May, beginning of June is the change of season. It's when the monsoon winds change, and that can lead to a slightly longer period of unsettled weather. And the same thing happens at the end of September, beginning of October. So there's a period of a couple of weeks where you have the season changes, and you might have rather than like an hour's long downpour, you might have a few more hours of rainfall, which. Yeah, something to be aware of. But, you'd be very unlucky to have more than a few days of rain if you stay for a week in the Maldives.
Okay. Well, given how much time it takes to get over there, I'm sure people would prefer no rain to rain. What about combining the Maldives with other destinations? We were talking earlier about getting there from the East Coast or West Coast. You've got it's going to take you a while to get there, but there's a lot of places you can go through. So it could be a European city to, stop there on the way, or you could go to, Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East. Sri Lanka, I think, is a favorite pairing destination. What are some of your thoughts about closer places to pair with the Maldives?
Absolutely. Well, yes, I know Europe is, first of all, a good option. And there's very good links to them, all direct links from London, from Paris, Rome, Istanbul, Frankfurt. So if you wanted to do a sort of a cultural European trip and then head on for a beautiful Maldivian stay, then you could do that. The main connecting hub is Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Doha. They're very well connected. So, Dubai in the UK is very, very popular, and it's a completely different destination, but has amazing restaurants, great shopping. And as a sort of like 2 or 3 day stop off, maybe go for a desert safari and then on to the Maldives. It's very convenient. But probably our favorite combination is Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is very different to the Maldives and has a lot of culture. I would describe it almost as being like India in miniature. So it's got a lot of what India has, but on a smaller scale, and is a bit more accessible and a bit less full on. Okay. So you could do a 7 to 10 night tour in Sri Lanka and see most of the best things it has to offer. You can do safaris, you can do temples, you can do ancient cities and ruins, and a bit of beach as well. And then it's a short 1 hour flight from Colombo to Mali in the Maldives. And it's very easy to get to.
So close. Now, if we Americans would just take longer vacations, then we could do that for 3 weeks.
Yes, you work too hard over in America, I think. You need to stay longer.
Well, I'll have to have you on to talk about Sri Lanka one day too, because we haven't talked about that yet. So we'll dive into that deeper on another day. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. This has been so fun. It's a place that's on so many people's bucket lists, and it was great to hear from you all these insights into different places. And I hope that in the coming year, a lot more people get to sort of go explore that side of the world. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thanks, Mimi. Great pleasure.
All right. Well, take care.
Bye.